In September 1918, in rural Arizona, a baby was born 2 months early. She weighed 2.5 pounds, and that was with her winter clothes on. She was so premature, she had no eyebrows and no fingernails. The attending physician, Dr. Morrison, didn't believe the infant would survive the night. He filled out the top of a death certificate, leaving it blank and unsigned on the table, planning to return the next morning. This was Curtis Flats. No neonatal intensive care units, no electric incubators. Survival here depended entirely on what a family could build or adapt from the land. But the doctor never signed that paper. Clea Brown didn't disappear from the records in 1918. She lived to see the 21st century, passing away at over 100 years old. We usually track the massive shifts of the last century through history books, but to see how that world actually changed, we have to look at the physical objects that kept this one woman alive and defined her journey. Clea's parents improvised immediately. They lined a small wooden shoebox and placed it on the open door of their wood stove to catch the heat. That box served as her incubator. She was too small to nurse, so her mother carried her on a pillow and fed her round the clock, 1 drop at a time, using a glass medicine dropper. When she struggled to breathe, her grandmother used a frontier remedy, slicing a large onion, covering it in sugar, and plastering the poultice directly to the infant's chest. The treatment was purely mechanical. The caustic smell of the onion hit the airway and forced her to gasp, reflexively expanding her lungs when they threatened to fail. In the absence of a hospital, a wooden box and a medicine dropper were the only tools standing between an infant and that unsigned death certificate. This is the Adams cooler, the standard for food preservation before rural electricity. A pan of water sat on top, with burlap draped over the sides. Dry desert wind passing through the wet burlap caused evaporation, dropping the internal temperature to keep food from spoiling. Upgrading to a gas-powered Maytag washing machine didn't necessarily make life easier. The motor was so unreliable, someone had to sit beside it for hours, keeping a finger under the throttle to prevent it from sputtering out. For drinking water, the family used a clay olla. Filled at night with artesian well water, the porous clay would sweat, using that same evaporative process to provide cool water throughout the following day. Life on the ranch was governed by a strict economic frugality. No one opened a canned good if there was any other food available to eat. These tools required constant physical attention. Daily survival was a partnership between the family and the machinery that kept them fed and hydrated. Their horizon eventually expanded beyond the homestead. In the early 1920s, surveyors on the ranch discovered the remains of ancient animals, including a prehistoric, shell-covered glyptodon. Clea's father helped excavate these fossils, including bones from 3 large mastodons, to be crated and shipped to the Smithsonian. This new connection to the wider world took a physical form in 1927. Her father took on extra work to buy a gray Chevy with a black top, purchased for one trip, the Mesa Temple dedication. It was a full-day journey on dirt roads. At the time, traveling faster than 35 miles per hour was considered speeding. At 9 years old, Clea entered the temple and received a small commemorative button pin. She was there to see the temple dedicated by church president Heber Grant. The Chevy and the pin marked a shift. For a family that had previously shared a single car with 3 other households, they finally had the independence to cross the desert and join thousands of others in a shared history. Clea spent the next several decades in that same valley, raising 6 children on a dairy farm and working as a substitute teacher until she was 78 years old. By her final years, her primary tool was no longer a plow or a washing machine. It was a computer. This digital counter represents her final life's work. Using a global database, she reviewed and indexed 251,653 names to preserve family histories for the future. The life that began in a wooden shoebox on a stove door ended at a keyboard, navigating the internet. The unsigned death certificate from 1918 never became a legal record. In its place, Clea Brown left a century of work, from the dairy farms of the frontier to 250,000 digital names, proving exactly what can be built in the time she wasn't supposed to have.